And it happened that God tested Abraham. He said to him, "Abraham." And Abraham replied, "Hineni, here I am." Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on Isaac, his son. And he himself took the fire and the knife, and the two of them went together. Isaac said to Abraham his father, "Father?" And Abraham answered, "Hineni, beni, here I am, my son." They came to the place God had told him about, and Abraham built there an altar and arranged the wood and bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. He reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. Then an angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, "Avraham, Avraham." And Avraham said, "Hineni." Hineni is a joining of two words, hine and ani, and it means literally, "Here I am." But it's a deep "here I am," said not very often in our texts, reserved for key characters, often in response to a direct call from God at pivotal moments in their lifetimes. Another example, when the Lord saw that he had turned aside to look, God called to him out of the bush, "Moshe, Moshe." And Moshe answered, "Hineni." I think that the power of the word hineni is the following. It's at once completely exposing. Hineni, here I am with all my faults, with my motivations exposed. You can see me fully. And at the same time, it's incredibly grounded about showing up for others or for a cause. Hineni, I'm here, ready to serve, ready to be fully present for the task at hand. To me, it's the intersection of both these concepts that makes Hineni so powerful. What it means to me is that in order for these characters of our texts, and in order for us to participate, to play our unique role in these pivotal moments, we have to show up, but not just show up a little bit or halfway, but Hineni show up as our full selves, fully present and fully ready. In thinking about Hineni, I read a D'var from 2014 by a retired conservative rabbi, Rabbi Simcha Kronbaum. Rabbi Kronbaum points out that, maybe with one exception, when the characters in our texts say Hineni, they don't know what's coming next. They say Hineni before the task is presented to them that will change the course of their life story. Meaning, they commit to Hineni showing up before they even know how the next moments of their lives will unfold. Reading this commentary, I was struck by how relevant it feels to this time of the Jewish year and also to our world today. What does it mean to Hineni show up before we even know how the next moments of our lives will unfold? Each year at this time on the Jewish calendar, and especially in about a week from now on Yom Kippur, we are made starkly aware of how uncertain our world and our lives are. We don't know what will happen in the year to come. We're on the brink of it. And living in the world today in 2024, to me, this seems like it could never be more true. We're living in a time of war. We're living in a time of violence. We're living in a time of deep uncertainty. We're living in a time of fear that challenges us each so much that we have to work hard just to keep our own humanity and to remember that other people are human. Yet, in the midst of all of this, each of us in our own ways, particular to us, are asked to Hineni show up. How do we do that when we're living in a time that's so uncertain and when we truly do not know what will come after we say that word? As someone who's been trained as an organizer, I think a lot about what conditions make the Hineni type of showing up possible. And I want to offer 3 key realms of thought on that here. And for the third one, we'll have a little bit of discussion amongst ourselves. The first realm of thought is around systems of support. The second is around being seen for our full selves. And the third, which we'll discuss in Chavruta, is around a framework that another a modern rabbi offered around this. So first, around systems of support. Hineni showing up happens in community, not alone. We need each other to Hineni show up. Some of you have heard me say this before. We often tell stories about ourselves, with ourselves as the single main character, and we leave out an essential piece of the story. Namely, we leave out the support structures that allowed us to do whatever it was we did in our story. So we say, and then I took the job. And we leave out the 3 phone conversations with friends that allowed us to reach that decision. I wonder what the stories of our tradition would look like if we visibilized the support that allowed the characters of our texts to make the decisions they made. Who was supporting Abraham when he said Hineni? If we read these characters as human, I don't believe it's possible that they acted without support. Support is so often completely invisible and at the same time completely essential. So too for us today in our world. We cannot be in pain alone, as I said yesterday, and if we're going to show up, we need to know how we're supported, and we need to trust the people that are supporting us. Second, around being seen. In order to Hineni show up, I believe that we need to be and feel seen for our full selves. I know this so deeply that when people feel seen and embraced as their whole selves, they're able to bring their whole selves to the work. They're able to Hineni show up. This is a call for humanity in our time. We can't lose it. And I know that in order to show up for the fights we're fighting in the world now more than ever, we need to ask people to show up as their highest selves, again, as we talked about yesterday, with their glistening and shining and their vulnerabilities held. Third, and here's where we'll get into discussion, and I'll open it up for us to do some talking amongst ourselves. There's a framework from another modern rabbi that I found very helpful around how we can Hineni show up in tough times. So Rabbi Amy Wald-Katz offers this framework for Hineni that appears at 3 different times in our Torah reading today. So I want to invite us to look at them. So take your machzor and turn to page 208. This is the Torah reading, looking back at it. So I just want to point out to everyone where these 3 Hinenis show up. So on 208, right at the beginning, everyone see in English, sometimes afterwards, God put Abraham to the test, saying to him, Abraham, to which he replied, everyone see that? Here I am, Hineni. And you can see it in the Hebrew as well. Okay, the second one, let's just point them all out. Turn the page to the next page. And this is 4 lines up from the bottom in the English. This is this painful, painful moment where Isaac notices that they have all of the materials necessary for the sacrifice except the sacrifice itself. And he asks about it. He says, Father. And then he, Abraham, replied, Here I am, my son, Hineni beni. Okay, and the third one, on the next page, is this most intense moment. This is 6 lines from the top in the English. And this is when Abraham is about to slay his son, but an angel of God calls to him, Abraham, Abraham, and he answered, Hineni, here I am. Now, just for those of you who were here yesterday, I just want to point out something interesting. And so if you look in the Hebrew, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 lines down, you see Vayomer, Avraham, Avraham. Everyone see that? And do you see how there's a larger space in between the two? Does everyone see that? That's where the pausal sign is. And if somebody wants to confirm that I'm correct, if you get a Tanakh from behind there, you'll see in the Tanakh that it's written Avraham, and then there's a vertical line, and then it's very spaced out, a vertical line, and then the other Avraham, and that's the pausal sign that we were talking about yesterday. And in here, it's just printed as sort of a larger space, so you can see that. And here we go again, Vayomer, Avraham, Avraham, Vayomer, Hineni, here I am. So what I want us to do is look at these 3 instances of Hineni together. Now, it's very rare that there are so many of this word. This word does not appear that many times in Torah. So the fact that it appears 3 times in this reading, one after another, is pretty significant. So I want to actually ask people to turn to the people next to you, and we're going to take some time to look at this text together. And here are some questions for a few minutes that I invite you to look at. The first is, why do you think this appears so many times in this story? And second, why do you think we read this story? What does it add to Rosh Hashanah that we read this story every Rosh Hashanah? Second is, and here's this framework by Rabbi Amy Walk-Katz that I found to be interesting and potentially helpful. She maps on 3 different feelings to each of these Hinenis. The first one, she says, is trust. That God says, Abraham, and again, this is the Hineni where it's before the task is even announced. And God and Abraham says, Hineni, I'm ready to do what you say. And then he goes. By the way, and I'll just point this out, if you read this first page of the text on 208, to me, it's kind of shocking just how quickly Abraham obeys this call. And I'll just note, if you want to do some deeper study, that it's also shocking to the rabbis. And there's a lot of midrash about this. Midrash is, the best description I've heard of it is rabbinic fan fiction on the Torah. And the rabbis add in, okay, it didn't actually say this here, but this is what actually was happening. And there's a lot of midrash about Abraham actually protesting this order. So if you want to do deeper study, then let me know. We can look at those texts too. So this rabbi says that trust goes with this first, here I am. Abraham has a relationship with God already, has trust. I know for me that's definitely true when I have a relationship with someone and an ask comes from that person, that allows me to show up in a way that if a random person asks me to do something, I probably won't show up. So God and Abraham have a relationship. God says, will you do this? Abraham says, Hineni. Okay. Second is Rabbi Amy Walk-Katz says out of love. Now this is when Isaac says, Father, where is the sacrifice? And Abraham says, his first response, he pauses and then he says, Hineni. So what's going on? So take a look at that. And the third one, out of deep, deep pain. Out of deep, deep pain. And this is the moment where, again, the Zohar says that Abraham is part of himself. Something is going on. He's part of himself. And then Abraham, pausal sign, Abraham, and he comes back into his fullness. From a place of pain, he needs to be brought back to fullness. So I found that helpful too. Trust, love, and pain. Also places to be called from that set up conditions for Hineni showing up. Out of relationship, out of love, and out of deep pain or oppression. A need to show up and fight for what we need to fight for. So I'm going to invite everybody to just take a deeper look at these verses together, just for a few minutes, just with the people next to you. Why is Hineni here so much? What are the emotions that are going on? Do you like the trust, love, pain framework? If you were going to put your own framework on these three Hinenis, what would your framework be? And then we'll come back and talk a little bit and close together. So feel free to talk amongst yourselves. Find someone either who you know or don't know, and we'll come back together. How are those conversations? And I just want to invite us all to think about and to weave this teaching and this learning and this discussion into our time today, and how to stay aware of what we each need to Hineni show up in whatever ways and right-sized roles we show up. We don't each have to be Abraham or Moses. In fact, we're not Abraham or Moses, we're ourselves. And we have to be us to show up, fully ourselves, fully present, with support, showing up out of trust, out of love, out of pain, and out of all these different emotions that come up in our reading. So, Shana Tova, everyone, and thanks for the discussion.